Well, we have another speaking tip today. Last week were the semifinals and the finals of the 2022 World Championship of Public Speaking. And I would like to congratulate Cyril Jr. Din on a phenomenal speech, phenomenal delivery, an excellent representation of what public speaking is, and an excellent representation of what a great message is. And I think that Cyril will be an excellent ambassador for Toastmasters and a representative to the other members on what excellence in speaking is. I was very happy with that outcome. A couple of things that Cyril did. When you watched him come out, he was very relaxed. And he started his speech off talking about the contest chair in a very positive manner, that she had a more of a Zimbabwe accent than he did. And then one of the things he did, he introduced a new word, Nindi. I think it's where Shona, from his native language of Shona, Nindi, and it means this is me. And his entire speech was about his identity, his struggle with his identity, and how he resolved that struggle. But the key here, I want you to make as a speaking tip, he introduced a new word. Now, one of the things I have done very successfully is I have defined words. And if it's a very common word, give it a new definition. He gave us a new word in another language with a specific meaning so that we could now view our identity through that word. This is me. A couple other things about his speech. I'm not going to do a big dissertation on it. He was very authentic. He was very genuine. He was talking to the audience. And that's one of the things that I worked towards in my speaking, was to be genuine and be the same person on the stage you'd meet in the hall. And I always say that I've done the speaking tips on this. The hardest thing in speaking is to just be yourself and talk to the audience. And yes, there's more people there, and you have to be a little bigger than you would be if you're speaking one-on-one, but you're just there having a conversation with the audience, relaxed, you know what you're going to say, versus giving a memorized, recorded speech in your mind where you stand up and you say exactly what you were intending to say with the gesture where you wanted it and you had practiced it 400 times. Okay. I also think the second and third place winners did a phenomenal job, and I'm very pleased with the judging in the finals. A couple of the speakers that didn't place, some of the things I saw, and I talk a lot about this, I think some of them had a lot of acting involved in it. And another one had what I would say a lot of begging and guilt in the speech. They weren't making the point with the story that this is why we needed to do this. They told a story, then they begged us to believe their message and sort of put guilt on it. And another one I think was, it was a little too animated. And what I want to talk about, this is a speech contest. We're speaking, it's public speaking, it's oratory excellence. We should be able to listen to it on the radio, and it should have the same impact that it has seeing it live. It's a speech contest. It's not an acting contest. It's not a dramatic presentation contest. It's not a sermon. It's a speech contest. Let's keep that in mind. And so I was very pleased with what I saw with the judging, and I normally am in the finals. Not so in the semifinals. I think there were 3.5 speakers that there were far better speakers in the semifinals, far, far, far better speakers in the semifinals than 3.5 of the speakers. And I say that because one of them I'm a little questionable on. I can see it, but not. I lean towards another speaker there that I thought there were far better speakers in the semifinals that had much tighter speeches, much more authentic, real delivery, much more poignant messages that got skipped over. Now, what's the speaking tip from that standpoint? There's two things. When when you pass the speech, when you promote a speaker to the next level, you can give Toastmasters as an organization gives that speaker a false sense of competence. They think they're doing it right. And I've seen this. The other thing it does, it gives the speakers that are looking at them as they progress up a wrong sense of competence. They're going, oh, that's what it takes to win. And so you get sort of this false information or false competence that gets promoted within the organization. So that's why it's so critical we pass the best speakers up and we have the best speakers in the finals. Okay. So as a speaker, one of the things, and I had a chance to talk to some of these people that didn't win. And if you know my story, I competed for 13 years. I've lost more contests than I've ever won. And I really, really took the attitude. I didn't want to leave winning my speech contest up to the judges. I didn't want them to decide if I won. I was going to decide if I won. And that's really an attitude I think that drove me to the World Championship. Was I wanted my speeches to be so good, so on point, so genuine. I wanted that. I call it in baseball, it was 110-mile-an-hour fastball, dead center of the strike zone. Nobody's going to call that ball high. No, it was right on point. That's what I wanted. That's what I worked for, was to be so good that nobody could say I couldn't win, because there were a lot of contests I was in that I thought I should have won. I didn't want to understand why the judges didn't understand how brilliant I was. Well, I was leaving it up to the judges to decide. And when I started just taking full ownership for my speech and saying, okay, I'm knocking this out of the park. And it's out of the park. Nobody can say it isn't out of the park. And that's when my speaking really started to take off. So don't leave it up to the judges. Be real. Don't act. Don't beg. Don't be over dramatic. It's a speech contest. That's my speaking tip for today. I'm real pleased with the judging. I'm real pleased with the performance of the speakers in the finals and those that got rewarded. So I just want to leave you with that today. And if you haven't seen it, go online and watch it. I think it'll be a great education for you in what to do and what not to do. That's it for this week.